experience listening to you. Thank you so much for everything. I guess in between your talk, I had somewhere tears in my eyes because I was resonating and vibing so much. So thank you so much for just being you there.
Sure.
And my question, Kevin, would be that you mentioned that social and gaming are two pillars, and now Vibe and Rush are coming forward. So, do you see that these pillars, or let's say Vibe and Rush, will be coming together and their stories being weaved together, or something where they merge somewhere down the line, where they merge and not just act as two separate apps, or something which is coming under the umbrella, and it's a part of a bigger gigantic ball which is coming into form?
Thanks for that question. No, we believe super apps are the thing of the past. So we believe that multiple applications are the best way to serve the market because of one simple reason, which is um, customers want simple things. An app should have one job to be done, as we call it. We use the job to be done framework at Hike. And Vibe has a very different job to be done from Rush. And actually, the overlap in the user bases is quite minuscule. But we believe we can have a positive impact on through both those products and be the best and innovate and also build a fantastic business too. So Hike and Buy by Hike and Rush by Hike are two separate products, but we have a common we have a few things that are common about both those products. And the big one is the Hike Moji, which is the identity. It's your identity in Vibe, and your identity in Rush as well. So we have common sort of aspects of both the products, but they're different, solving different jobs to be done.
Thank you, Gitika. Booker, how are you? You got a question for Kavin?
Hey KBM, what's up? I was with Hike for some time, for about a year and a half. But I left Hike right before the whole change in administration and so on, people leaving happened. So just want to ask, how did you manage the morale of the team? I mean, you had to let go like 250 odd people. How did you manage that up? And now that you're remote, how do you manage people? Would love to know.
Yeah, it's a great question. And hey, man, been a long time. Um, the the way to do it is I'll answer the first question first, which is cut once. Don't cut more than once. Just do the whole thing in one sweep. If you have to make a change to the org and cut the team, you can't do it in drips. You just got to cut it once and tell the team that this is it. And the second is everybody who's left, get them involved in the process of helping rebuilding. And the high code is, it may be a document that's written by a few of us, but it imbibes the values of those people that were there at Hike, those 120 people. And they feel part of the mission, part of the culture. I think that's very, very important. Third is like I said, which is it's not that we didn't want to do great things, we wanted to, but we stumbled along the way. And we just had to remind people that we're still on this path to achieving something great. And would they want to join us on the journey or not? So being very upfront. So that's one. Second is on remote. As a culture, and you would have seen this in Hike from when you were there too. We've always had the tools to make people productive. We focused a lot of time and energy on making people productive very early on. And that investment has worked tenfold for us in a remote environment because we have all the tools for design, for engineering, all those things that come extremely well together. And we also invest a lot in, we're very transparent. So all hands once a month, you remember that. TGIFs every 2 weeks in Q&As, completely transparent. People can ask us anything. Demo days every 2 weeks. And we also have something called Office Vibe. That's a tool that we use to sort of get employees' inputs to make sure that the pulse of the company is understood. And having all these online sessions with people, we are starting to explore as the vaccine comes out and the risk of COVID is less. Once every 2 weeks, sort of people gathering in person and working. And so while we aim to be remote first, we also are going to experiment with that second leg of in person working too.
Thank you, Kavin. Akash, you have a question for Kavin. Welcome.
Hey, thank you.
So first of all, I love nothing more than social and gaming apps. So I'd love to see the two new Hike apps really succeed. But my question is, I have a hypothesis that is in India, the population mostly gravitates to whichever is the best social app of the world. So it might be Instagram, it might be Facebook, it might be YouTube in some ways. So what makes you think that these apps, if built purely for India, have a chance? Why not just do it for the world and take and place the bets over there?
We never said we're not building for the world. It's India first, and because the market is very big. But you're spot on, which is if you're building for India, you've got to have a sense that you're building for the world, and we definitely keep that in mind. Which, by the way, means that you have to differentiate not just an India level, but at a global level. So I'm totally with you on that, and I think that's the right hypothesis, by the way.
Thanks.
Awesome. Deborah, welcome. You have a question?
Hi, Pankaj. Hi, Kavin. Yeah, thank you so much. This has been a great conversation, great questions, great answers. I live in Malaysia, so I've never used Hike as a platform before, but I've followed a little bit of your journey recently, Kavin, and just now getting to my question. I really resonated with quite a few of the habits that you talked about, such as fixing your diet, exercising, sleeping enough, and my last 12 months have really changed because I started putting into place a lot of those practices. And I think one of the first things that I wanted to fix was my energy levels, and that was for me personally, besides those physical things, to also identify what how I personally derive energy. And I think for everyone it's really different. Right. So my question is, I fear that once my work life goes back into fully back into the office, or working in office and remote, I'm worried that I'm going to lose that discipline that I've built, because now I have a bit more time to put these things into practice. I won't be commuting, and I won't be distracted by people. I've really enjoyed not being distracted by people. And so my question is, when you started inculcating these practices in your life, did you come up against issues, in that sort of transition period, and how you dealt with it, how you made sure that you truly stuck to your disciplines that you picked up?
Yeah, I think it's a good question, and thank you for asking that. The let me. I think on the remote side, there are always sort of people on the extreme. Some people are extroverted and love the in-person working. Some people are more introverted and love time with themselves. I am, by the way, I lean much more towards introverted than extroverted. So I totally understand what you're saying. But I think once you realize that these things that you do in your life have a very positive impact, you find a way to make time. Because honestly, you have 24 hours in the day, you sleep, let's say 7, 8 hours, you still have 16 hours. And I see a lot of people saying, hey, I don't have the time for this, this, this. I don't think that's true. I think it's people are not making the time for it. And I feel like that's what you got to do, which is just make the time for it. And, people watch what, 2, 3, 4 hours of Netflix every day, take out half an hour of that or 1 hour of that and meditate and go to the gym. So I think it's a lot easier than people think it is. You just got to know that it's in your control.
Just a quick follow-up. Thanks for that. Actually, I'm an extrovert. So which is for example, I went to work out with a friend the other day, and I had a friend who was just dropping by the park, and just that interaction alone completely threw me off, because I'm naturally, sociable and like to respond to people, and that's where my worry comes. It's like, because I feel like the external obligations really pull me. And so that's why I'm worried, but I suppose I'll have to figure out a way to center myself despite external circumstances.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great.
Thank you,
Thank you
Deborah.
so much. Thanks for the
Thank you.
conversation.
Thanks.
Kevin, keeping tabs on time. How much time do you have? Do you have time to go
We've
through
got
three
another,
more?
another 5, 7 minutes. Yeah.
Okay, great. So we'll go through these questions as quickly as possible and then close it out. Manbir, welcome. You got a question for Kevin?
Thank you, Pankaj. It's pouring out here in San Francisco, so it's good to join a hike virtually. So, so Kevin, I mean, honestly, dude, I think following you on Twitter, it's a different personality, and being able to hear you out on Clubhouse, it's a totally different personality, to be honest. And this side is definitely better. It's more kind of understanding how you are and the thought process. I think it's great, Kevin. So thank you for first of all kind of doing this, and Pankaj, thanks for hosting this. So Kevin, I think I mean, I'm also an ambivert. When you say introvert and extrovert, I'm also kind of I define it ambivert. But one thing that I had to ask you, the thought that you said that you have to be spiritual in what you're doing, you have to have that spiritual mindset because you're born in India, you've got so much of depth of cultures, religions. You have to take something out of it and put it at work. I'm not saying it has to be driven around spirituality, but you should have that kind of thought process in whatever you're doing. With that said, when I speak to folks back in India and I tell them that, yes, you have to explore yourself. And the way I was able to explore myself is by, let's say living a year in Singapore, living 2 years in China, and then back here in San Francisco. I think that's where I got to know who I was. But when I relate these things back to folks in India, they do not agree that, yes, this is what is the true definition of just kind of moving out and being alone, doing your own stuff, learning more about yourself. But given you echo the same thoughts, how do you handle a conversation when you're speaking to your friends or somebody like on this chat, and people kind of come back and say that, no, this is not relatable. Probably Kevin was fortunate because of his father's background. That's how people come back and tell me that you come from a business background and maybe you were fortunate to do that. But I don't think the people I've met on the journey traveling outside were all fortunate from a business background. They were just of the opinion that, yes, we have to explore ourselves. How do you communicate that gap that people cannot see today to, you know, to relate to what your thought process is?
I think the simple answer is you have to accept that everybody is on their own journey and everybody is on their own sort of level of evolution, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. And what's right or wrong, by the way, in human society is just relative. What's true is true from one perspective. There are very few absolute truths. So what I'm telling you is what's worked for me. It's very possible it may not work for somebody else. As a matter of fact, I have a twin brother. He's completely the opposite of me, by the way. So, I'm talking about just what I think has worked for me and some of the reasons why. And it may work for some people and it may not work for some people. The whole idea is to figure out what you want for yourself. And that will likely be very different for different people.
Fantastic. Swati, quick question for Kavin. Welcome.
Yeah, hi Kavin. Thanks a lot for doing this, and I absolutely loved what you spoke about in terms of the discipline that it takes to make a decision, however brutal it may be. My question is around how, as somebody who's built a startup that's pivoted so frequently and thoughtfully, how did you find the circle or community of people that you constantly had conversations with, and how did that evolve over the last 8 years?
Yeah, I think it was a mix of conversations. You'll always have the people who are supportive. You'll always have the people who are skeptical. You'll always have the people who are just all kinds of people. And I feel like, the company was in a holding pattern for a good 12 to 18 months. And that was frustrating for us. And the key goal was to just have the discipline to keep executing and sort of going on this march that you just fire bullets and you learn and you get to a place where you can start firing some bazookas. And so, I'm a big believer in frameworks. I've got a bit of an engineering sort of mindset, which is you build frameworks and you abide by those frameworks. And let's say something's not working in the framework, you zoom out, change the framework, and then again abide by the framework. So for us, it was always getting back to growth, getting back to a clear direction, getting back to a fantastic culture. And I think those goals in my mind are very clear. And my guess is if you talk to anybody who spoke to me the last 12 to 18 months obsessively, I would have talked about nothing else.
Great. Yatin, you got a question for Kavin?
Hey, am I audible?
Yes,
Sorry,
you
I've
are.
been very patiently hearing you guys since last 1 hour, 18 minutes. Damn cool. Thank you for organizing it. And I have one question, Kavin. I know it's been a long journey for you. I met you in 2013 when you were just starting up Hike. And today, as we look at 2021, I know teams have changed, company has pivoted. You have this whole new avatar, the spiritual side of Kavin. But my question is, as a founder, how do you make the journey fun? What's one advice you would give to founders that how do you make your entrepreneurial journey a fun journey and a memorable one?
Work on something you're passionate about, and also don't take life too seriously. And all that stuff becomes easier to do when you realize some of the deep spiritual stuff that I talked about. That at the end of the day, life is one big cosmic movie. And then everything becomes a lot easier.
Thank you, thank you.
Thanks, Kevin. We got two more people that have raised their hands. If you're up for it, two quick questions. Otherwise, we'll close out the room.
Yeah, I can do it. We don't do this very often, so I can make the time.
Well, we are going to do this more often now. So,
well, okay. I
yeah,
guess you caught me
yeah,
off guard, but yeah, we can take the questions.
yeah. Okay. All right. We're going to take two questions. Nikita first, and then Shri. If there, yeah, there you are. Welcome, Nikita.
Hey PJ, hey Upasana. Kevin, I'm going to keep this light. I laughed the whole way through, and that's to tell you that when I watched Big Bang Theory, I learned bazinga. Today, every time you said bazooka, I smiled on my walk. Because it's a new word I've learned. I think I'm going to keep it now. And the other thing I wanted to say is a lot of people listening today may have to go, if there's any breakups that happen today, PJ, they're going to come to you. Because they're going to be like, why do you need to, why do you need this break? When I was listening to Kavin and he said, I need to reflect and find myself. So yeah, I thought I'd keep it light-hearted. There are many questions, but as you're going to do this monthly, it'll be PJ and chat with Kavin every month. So I'll leave it till then. But I had to tell you these two observations I laughed through for the last hour. So thank you.
Thanks, Nikita.
Thank you, Nikita. Shri, last question or comment real quick.
Hi, Colin. I just have a small question in the social space. Like, I'm just wondering, like, the second mover advantage that people always talk about, but after Facebook, there's no other social app that is able to bring such a big, user base or something like that. But do you think that, I'm just wondering, like, is this space a bit saturated, or like how can social apps rediscover themselves?
That's a great question. Thanks for asking that. I think two parts to it, three parts to it actually. One is, a lot of data shows that pioneers in the space are not the ones who end up winning the market. And Facebook also was not the pioneer. There was MySpace, Friendster, and a bunch of other sort of social networks before them. But Facebook also had to buy Instagram. They also had to buy WhatsApp to sort of stay relevant. And a large part of the company today of Facebook is Instagram and WhatsApp. They tried buying Snapchat, couldn't do that, tried cloning them. But still, Snapchat today is a $100 billion company. And Evan's a fantastic founder, someone I look up to quite a lot, actually, because he's built the sort of Apple of the internet space. And I really believe quite the contrary. This is the last point, which is social is up for massive disruption because technology and cultures evolved so much. Facebook was built for the 2G and desktop era. We now have 4G. We have smartphones that can do God knows so many things. And as a result, you have all this technology to sort of solve the world's problems in very different ways. And look at Clubhouse, for example. This is a fantastic innovation by a brand new company that is building a brand new product based on the fact that the adoption of AirPods has been fantastic and this audio culture is building. So, technology is moving at such a rapid pace that there's so much room to innovate. And I think the markets have become so big. I think there are 4 billion people online now that even a small niche, like 10%, is like 400 million people. So the market is big, technology is evolving. I think this is the best time to be building for social.
I have a small follow-up. Can I?
Sure.
There's one more thing that I've kind of found myself that there's been previous attempts that a small number of us did to build products, but at one point we didn't have the conviction to move forward when it came up to scaling, so on and so forth. I often find that conviction is missing based on the place where we come from, blah blah blah. So I'm just wondering, like, how do we gain that confidence to move forward when there is because technology, like all these new age people will come with technology today are far more confident, right, from people who are a bit more older. So how do we pull that conviction to march forward, if I don't confuse you?
I'd actually say that the younger generation, there are pockets of them that I think may be more confident than sort of the older generation, but I think most of them are far more insecure because they're obsessed with Instagram and Snapchat and looking at people's lives and comparing themselves all day long. So I don't think that's necessarily the case. But my simple point is, I have this equation. I'm surprised I didn't talk about it before, but I have this equation that I pen down, and I show this to the company almost every all hands, which is success is equal to a cube plus b square plus c in brackets multiplied by d. And when I ask people what sort of all these are, they almost always get them wrong. And the ABCD, I'll start with D. D is one that does not have a square or a cube, so it's important because it's on the equation, but it's not the most important thing. D is hard work. Hard work is table stakes. You have to work hard to sort of be successful. B is skill. Someone with more skill can be more successful than someone who works super hard and has less skill. But A, which has the cube on it, is clarity. Someone who has a tremendous amount of clarity can beat someone who has more skill and works harder than them. But none of this matters if you don't have D, which is the courage to pursue your clarity. And the courage tends to be 0 or 1. It's binary. So you just got to develop the courage to rise above all the things that hold you back and just go chase after your dreams. And I'm telling you, it's just one thing that holds people back. It's not fear of failure, by the way. It's fear of what will other people think if I fail. That's the issue. You get that out of your head, life becomes very easy.
Thanks a lot,
Thank
Kavin.
you.
Thank you.
Of course.
Kavin, thank you so much. This was incredible. I wish we
Likewise,
had
Pankaj.
more time, but we're going to do this again. We're going to make
Absolutely.
this a regular thing. We'll talk offline to do. I think a lot of the stuff that you talked about, the spiritual side, I think that's stuff that we could spend a couple of hours diving into, and I think a lot of people could really benefit from a lot of that as well. So I want to thank you. This was really incredible. Good luck with the pivots and with all of that, and we will talk again soon. And for those of you who didn't get a chance to ask Kavin a question today, we're going to do it again soon. We'll let you know. Do follow the Indian Startup Club to get notified when we set up the next session.